stay in the world of politics for a moment and go to Washington's 3rd congressional district. It's a high-profile race that's getting national attention. It's between Republican Joe Kent and Democrat Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. Last week, here on The Story, we profiled Kent, who's endorsed by President Trump. Tonight, we're looking at the other side, a political newcomer in Gluesenkamp Perez. Investigative reporter Evan Watson explains how both candidates are fighting to attract moderate Republicans who have to decide between Kent, who aligns himself with far-right political ideals, or jump ship and cross party lines for Gluesenkamp Perez.
Voters in Washington's 3rd congressional district need a new representative. Incumbent Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler, a Republican, lost in the August primary. The district hasn't elected a Democrat in over a decade. Marie Gluesenkamp Perez is hoping to change that.
That has been the focus of this race for me the entire time. We've got to bring back the middle ground.
Gluesenkamp Perez owns an auto repair shop in Portland with her husband, marketing herself as a working-class mom of a toddler who knows how to fix things.
And I think that matters because that's what America looks like. And things will not get better in government until we start electing people who have the shared experience of so many Americans.
But in a district that voted for Donald Trump in the past 2 presidential elections, and with about 65% of primary voters casting their ballots for a Republican in August, can she win the seat?
You know, this is a district that believes in moderation, and that's the opportunity here. That's, frankly, what our country needs right now.
For voters in your district who might not support the Democratic Party line normally, in what ways would you follow and encourage that as a Democratic candidate? In what ways would you stray from what those party policies are?
I'm here to be an independent voice for our district and to always put what is best for our district at the top of my agenda. You know, we have gotten so far down to this polarized partisanship that we have failed to have conversations about what are the pragmatic steps to improve our lives.
So you fully expect that if elected, there may be times that, hey, the party is voting this way, but
Absolutely.
When I look at our interests, I'm going to go a different direction.
Absolutely. I'm not here to be a party shill. I'm here to be an independent voice for our district.
In some ways, Gluesenkamp Perez does hold unique views for a Democratic candidate. She's a gun owner who lives in rural Skamania County. As a result, she opposes any assault weapons ban.
I don't think it gets at the heart of the issue, and I think the vast majority of gun owners are responsible. They go to the gun range. They believe in safe storage. We get a few unhinged, you know, young people. That doesn't mean that we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Though she said she would be open to raising the purchasing age from 18 to 21 for assault weapons. Gluesenkamp Perez also calls for more police officers and higher police salaries, criticizing a rise in property crime.
It has eviscerated the emergency funds of tens of thousands of people in our district, you know, and it is hurting our communities, hurting our sense of security, walking around at night, and violent crime is up too.
At the same time, she's made abortion rights and reproductive rights a tenet of her campaign, in light of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade.
This is not about the minutia of constitutional law. This is about the most intimate decisions a family will ever make. You know, I had a miscarriage in 2020. It was awful. You know, the last thing that I want is state troopers showing up on my porch the next morning to make me prove what really happened. This is not the America that we believe in.
Gluesenkamp Perez says inflation is the top issue affecting voters in Washington, but she stopped short of criticizing President Biden or Democratic leadership for rising costs.
I think the forces that have created this inflation have been coming down the road for decades. You know, look at American manufacturing, look at our jobs numbers. You know, we have been relying on other countries for cheap goods and offshoring our jobs. That's a huge problem. I'm not here to defend any political party. I'm here to say that as a small business owner who actually works in manufacturing, we need to start listening to people like me and supporting the policies that are going to get us back on a strong economic footing.
That includes further tapping into America's strategic oil reserves to lower gas prices in the short term, she says. Although she points to green jobs and investment in trade schools and apprenticeships as key for the economy and the environment down the line.
Looking around at the rise of things like microplastics in our environment, you know, the solution to that is paper and cardboard. And that's what we do right here in this district. We've got to be supporting the paper and cardboard industry and replacing plastic packaging with sustainable products we grow here in Washington State.
She says she will accept the results of her upcoming election and says criticism of mail-in voting and allegations of voter fraud are wholly unfounded.
I think we should all be deeply disturbed when people try to make this about partisanship. You know, anyone who has done a really deep dive on our elections know that these are incredibly secure. I mean, fraud is vanishingly rare, and the people running our elections office are patriots and civil servants. This is not some YouTube conspiracy theory. Go down and talk to them. Volunteer there.
Gluesenkamp Perez hopes an appeal to middle ground thinking will sway voters to her side, frequently criticizing partisanship as the reason for the country's problems.
And when you're talking to people in your district, you're seeing that.
Absolutely. We've got to get back to a place where it's the majority of us driving the agenda, setting the goals for what's best for our district. It can't just be about what the loudest voices or the Twitter trolls want us to do. It has to be what's going to actually deliver results to make normal Americans' lives better in our district.
Evan joins me now. It was interesting to me, the pivot on the very first question where you asked, how are you going to be different than Democrats?
Well, I think you can point to those issues, which she did talk about later, which would come to maybe guns and her gun ownership, or when she's talking about crime and where she'd like to see police and police funding. But initially, just the, hey, I'm not going to vote along party lines. I'm going to make an independent choice of the district. You'd expect that from every candidate, too, but we'll see what that record would match up and be if elected to Congress, of course.
How was she as a person to interview? You were used to interviewing like the governor candidates who've had months and months and months of saying this stuff. And Gluesenkamp Perez kind of new to the campaign.
Yeah, and those governor candidates have a lot of political experience. For example, she was a lot more comfortable in a one-on-one setting than some of the debates that we have watched and seen with her at. But I think that speaks to what she's also trying to build as a brand and marketing, and that she is a young mom, that she is a working class Democrat, more comfortable in that auto shop than maybe on a debate stage. So we'll see how that plays out for the last month of this election cycle.
Yeah, it'll be something if she can pull it out. I think the odds are against her, but we'll be watching very closely.
Sure thing.
Thanks, Evan. Appreciate it.